Greetings, detectives. This is Michael with the Murder Mystery Company reading an audio summary for Best Laid Plans. This summary is designed to go over all the important things that you'll need to know to pull off an amazing show. So strap in and prepare to have your frontal lobe massaged with some delicious script refreshment. This old Tinseltown-themed show takes place at a most unusual gathering, the planned death of reclusive and mysterious movie producer War and Peace. His films are universally loved, but as a human being there are a lot of people who would love to see him dead. This is the first time he's made a public appearance in years, and he's invited all of those who hate him most in the world to attend. He is dying of acute pseudo-hyperbole and wants to go out with a bang on his own terms. He wants to be murdered and to give his fortune to the ones that solve his slightly early demise. Things do not always go as planned. In every murder there is a smoking gun clue, the one thing that is key to unraveling the entire plot. It is your job above all things to never give out the smoking gun clue. Just don't do it. The guests need to come to this conclusion themselves. Here are the smoking gun clues. Cherry Bomb lost her role of Lisa Ham because of Mr. Greenspan and Miss Peacock. The crime scene photos reveal that the killer must be a female who was an acquaintance of Miss Peacock. Now for the characters. Cherry Bomb. Cherry is a naive actress fresh out of Columbus, Ohio, and she just got her first real break by landing a role as Lisa Ham in Sir War and Peace's newest film, The Loneliest Butterfly. She did it the right way, on her talent, not by compromising her morals. Cherry's important clues. Cherry has two friends in the world, Jarvis Deedit, the butler, and Miss Prissy Peacock, who was her mentor. Jarvis recently asked Cherry for advice about being offered money by Greenspan to show him which drink would be Warren's. Miss Peacock was not as moral as Cherry and would do anything to get a part. There are rumors about Miss Peacock spending some questionable time with Mr. Greenspan and Sleazy McQueen. Cherry found out that War and Peace was planning on replacing her with Prissy Peacock on The Loneliest Butterfly. This seems to be a political move. Someone wanted Prissy in that part. Warren's disease, acute pseudo-hyperbole, sounds awfully made up. Jarvis lets Cherry know that Warren was forced to give the part to Prissy, or the funding for his film would have been pulled. Cherry is determined to get a good part in Hollywood. Even in the midst of all this, she is talking to people and trying to make connections. She may even try a new tactic. When the detective asks for clues in Act 2, she will let everyone know that Prissy Peacock slept with Sleazy McQueen, the casting director, just to get a part in The Loneliest Butterfly. And in Act 3, when the detective asks for clues, she will throw rival actress Donna Badthing under the bus by letting everyone know that Prissy Peacock once took a part from Donna as well. Donna Badthing. Donna Badthing is a world-famous starlet and a huge box office draw from 1929 to 1931. She's not as popular as she once was, but her leading role in War and Peace's newest film, The Loneliest Butterfly, should take care of that. Important clues. Donna has never met War and Peace before, despite being cast in this film. Donna's co-star in The Loneliest Butterfly is Lee Dingrole, a legendary actor who can impersonate almost anyone perfectly. Lee's talent might outshine Donna's. She's a little concerned about that. Donna is not a fan of Prissy Peacock. She stole a part from Donna once by sleeping with the director of that film. Donna dated Mr. Greenspan at one point so he would help jumpstart her career. It worked, and then she dumped him. It seems odd to her that War and Peace would be producing a movie when he was planning to die. Despite all the goings-on, Donna is a starlet and must maintain a proper amount of decorum. In Act 2, when the detective asks for clues, she offers a toast to the late Prissy Peacock. However, in Act 3, she volunteers that Mary Caton was seen stumbling around in Miss Prissy Peacock's house before she died. Dr. Serendipity. Dr. Serendipity is a woman doctor in a world where female doctors are not a thing that happens. She's a real trailblazer and a staunch feminist. Important clues. She does not know much about War and Peace. Dr. Serendipity was paid to be here to declare War and Peace dead. Prissy Peacock was sleeping with Greenspan to get a part. Dr. Sarah has been courting Sleazy McQueen, but he is not usually her type. Dr. Dippity's rather radical in other ways as well. She's an expert markswoman. She can tell that the gun used was a nickel-finish Olympic 9mm revolver. This is the same sort of gun she has seen Mr. Greenspan using at the gun range. Dr. Dippity knows that Miss Peacock had an affair with Sleazy McQueen. She has heard that Professor Purple is not the real author of The Loneliest Butterfly. It was actually the work of Miss Prissy Peacock. As she pays attention to feminist issues, she's aware that the FBI frequently recruits women to be covert agents. In Act 2, she will be called upon to confirm that someone has died. She does this by touching the tip of their nose. She does indeed declare them dead. Later in that same act, when the detective asks for clues, she will give him a letter. This letter is from Greenspan to War and Peace, forcing him to cast Prissy Peacock in order to get the funds for filming. In Act 3, there is something she simply can't keep inside anymore. When the detective asks for clues, she will publicly forgive Sleazy for sleeping with Prissy and ask him to marry her. No matter what he answers, she won't take no for one. Jarvis Deed It. Jarvis is War and Peace's personal butler, and one of the only people who has ever seen him in person. He is at all times professional and discreet. Important clues. Jarvis knew about the game in advance, and knows that when his boss Warren dies, he will get absolutely nothing and lose his job to boot. Jarvis has sought out Cherry for advice, as well as Professor Purple. Jarvis was offered a large sum of money by Mr. Greenspan to show him which drink Warren would be receiving later on. Jarvis knows that Miss Peacock and Cherry were friends. Jarvis was in charge of all the drinks being poured. Maid Oola La has a vial of poison in her purse. Jarvis did let Mr. Greenspan know which drink was Warren's, and he had turned his back at just the right time for Greenspan to put his plan into action. But the wrong person died. Jarvis knows that Warren was being blackmailed to cast Prissy Peacock in The Loneliest Butterfly by banker Mr. Greenspan. Greenspan was going to withdraw funding if Warren did not cast who he wanted. Even in the midst of chaos, Jarvis will keep his composure. In Act 2, when the detective asks for clues, he will volunteer that Maid Oola La has a vial of poison in her purse. In Act 3, he will confess that he had a plan to kill Warren with Greenspan. Greenspan poisoned Warren's drink, and then put the remainder of the poison in Oola's purse. He has no idea how the drinks got mixed up. Mary Caton Ashley. Mary Caton is a socially awkward movie fanatic, and she has her dream job in the movie industry as a production assistant. Despite the fact that she is now on the inside, she still gets starstruck working for War and Peace on his new film, The Loneliest Butterfly. Important clues. She really does not understand this party. Although she works for Warren, she gets most of her orders from Jarvis. Mary Caton has access to things like payroll for the film. And she's noticed that Lee Dingroll, the male lead in the film, is already on the payroll even though he's not started filming yet. He's even being paid for tonight. Mary Caton was seen in Prissy Peacock's house before Prissy was murdered. She had been asked by Warren to deliver the script for The Loneliest Butterfly to Miss Peacock's house. She tripped on the way into the house and had seen Miss Peacock sitting in her chair and ran because she didn't want to get her in trouble. Mary Caton had been in the kitchen and had touched a bunch of the glasses to make sure they were perfect. She accidentally knocked them all over with a huge crash. She even tried to pick them up and refill them, but gave up and left. A lot of glasses had already gone out by that time, including Warren's. Despite her clumsiness and awkwardness, there is nothing wrong with her hearing. When the detective asks for clues in Act 2, she will tell everyone that she overheard a phone call between Sleazy McQueen and Miss Peacock. They're having some sort of inappropriate relations. In Act 3, when somebody asks for clues, she reveals that Greenspan and Miss Peacock had a big fight, and Greenspan threatened to kill Miss Peacock. Mr. Greenspan. Mr. Greenspan is the banker responsible for allocating funding to films going into production. As a result, he's an extremely powerful and well-funded individual. He's not afraid to throw his influence around. Important clues. War and Peace had a number of his films financed through Greenspan's bank, even though they have never met in person. A recent disagreement over a casting choice with Warren might be enough to endanger Greenspan's job. Mr. Greenspan was going to pull funding for The Loneliest Butterfly if Warren did not cast Prissy Peacock as Lisa Hamm. Warren eventually agreed to Greenspan's casting choice. Jarvis recently asked Mr. Greenspan for advice about being offered money to show him which drink would be Warren's. At one point, Mr. Greenspan was dating Donna Badthing, but she broke it off. Mr. Greenspan has been sleeping with Prissy Peacock. Greenspan and Miss Peacock had a fight where he threatened to kill her and the police were called. It had to do with her sleeping with Sleazy McQueen. Greenspan even threatened to kill Prissy Peacock. Dr. Serendipity and Mr. Greenspan both go to the same gun range. Mr. Greenspan shoots an Olympic 9mm revolver. Mr. Greenspan paid Jarvis to give him access to Warren's drink. He planned on killing Warren with a poison and plant the poison on maid Oola La. He was very surprised where the poison wound up. Greenspan likes to show off by throwing his money around. He passes it out like candy until his death in Act 2. Yep, when Warren raises a toast to his own death, Greenspan takes a drink and dies on the spot, much to the confusion of Warren himself. Ula La. Ula La is Mr. Peace's maid. She is from the country of Sinovovich, and her accent is very difficult to place. She has only known her employer, Warren Peace, for the 2 weeks that she has worked for him. Important clues. Ula knows that Warren's disease, acute pseudo-hyperbole, is fake. He is in trouble with the IRS, and that is the reason why he has thrown this entire thing together. Dr. Serendipity is dating Sleazy McQueen, and is a world-class sharpshooter. The only guest missing on the guest list is Miss Prissy Peacock. Ula La is not a maid. She's actually FBI agent Slangwanger Smith, here undercover to take down Warren Peace for tax evasion. Greenspan and Peacock recently had a fight where Greenspan said he was going to kill her. Greenspan has the exact same model and make of gun that was used to kill Prissy. Even though keeping up the charade as a maid is exhausting, she keeps it up throughout the night. In Act 2, when she is asked about the poison in her purse, she really has no knowledge of it, but she did hear a crash in the kitchen earlier. Agent Smith. Agent Slangwanger Smith is the real name of the maid Ula La. In Act 3, she reveals this as her true identity. Important clues. Professor Purple was not the only person to pay a visit to Miss Peacock. Warren Peace does not really intend to die tonight, but faking his own death might get him out of jail time for tax evasion. There's only one killer for both Greenspan and Peacock. Now that Agent Smith is here, she is in charge. In Act 3, when it is announced that Warren Peace is dead, she takes over by announcing her true identity. She will then announce that Lee Dingroll obviously acted in self-defense, and that Lee should now question the remaining suspects. Peter Ness. Detective Peter Ness is the classic detective, here on the payroll of Warren Peace to oversee the events of this evening, which look like they will involve the death of Warren Peace himself. Important clues. Peter Ness is a lie. He is actually the real Warren Peace, and nobody must know about it. The FBI is hot in his trail for tax evasion, and he plans on faking his own death to avoid jail time. Almost no one in the room knows what Warren Peace looks like. The man claiming to be Warren Peace is none other than the famous actor Lee Dingroll. Lee thinks that this is just an elaborate game, but when someone kills Lee thinking he is Warren Peace, the real Warren Peace will get away scot-free. Miss Peacock was not supposed to die. That is not part of the plan. Ula La the maid is not who she says she is. He doesn't know who she is, but she is not a maid. Despite not being a real detective, Warren throws himself into the role, interrogating people and patting them down. When Warren mentions in Act 2 that he is in charge, he lets everyone know that Greenspan has been poisoned, probably by something in his drink, and that Jarvis needs to be interrogated since he was in charge of those drinks. Warren Peace / Peter Ness dies in Act 3. He was confronted by Lee Dingroll about his plot and tried to kill Lee himself. Lee manages to fend him off and inject him with arsenic in self-defense. Professor Purple. Professor Purple is the smartest man in the room. In any room as far as he's concerned. He claims to have written The Loneliest Butterfly, and is extremely cross about how the film adaptation is going to ruin his work. Important clues. Professor Purple was given a huge amount of money for the rights to The Loneliest Butterfly. He knows that Mr. Greenspan was going to be fired because of his refusal to fund Warren's film and some scandalous rumors about his relationship with Prissy Peacock. Professor Purple is not the real writer of The Loneliest Butterfly. That would be Prissy Peacock. Prissy was blackmailing Professor Purple with copies of the original manuscript with her name on it. Purple had developed a plan to get that evidence. Professor Purple did visit Prissy Peacock before her death. He picked a lock in the side door and took off his shoes to keep from making noise. Purple saw Miss Peacock dead and ran away without touching anything. Purple does know that Warren Peace was in trouble for tax evasion. It's amazing how Professor Purple can go on and on about himself so completely non-stop. It even comes as a surprise when the detective asks for clues in Act 3, and he announces that Jarvis took him and Cherry Bomb aside and told them that Greenspan offered him a lot of money to point out which glass belonged to Warren Peace, making Jarvis an accessory to murder. Sleazy McQueen. Sleazy McQueen is one of the biggest casting agents in Hollywood. As such, he has to access a lot of eager actresses just dying to impress him, and is not above using that access. Important clues. Sleazy is the casting director for Warren Peace's film The Loneliest Butterfly. He is in a relationship with Dr. Serendipity, but he is still playing the field. He has slept with Prissy Peacock. Sleazy has never met Warren Peace until tonight, despite casting some of his other films. The cast for The Loneliest Butterfly would have been Donna Badthing, Lee Dingroll, and Miss Peacock. Out of those 3 people, Lee was the only one who was not expected to be at the event tonight. Sleazy did overhear Jarvis talking to Professor Purple and Cherry Bomb about messing with Warren's drink in some way. After looking at the letter he found, he realizes that Prissy Peacock used Greenspan to get her the part in The Loneliest Butterfly. She slept with him to get Greenspan to blackmail Warren with the bank funds. In Act 2, when the detective asks for clues, he has a letter that he must give to the detective. It details how Warren is giving in to Greenspan for the casting of Miss Peacock. Dr. Dippity is going to ask him to marry her at the end of Act 3. He does his best to object, but it is kind of futile. The ending. Cherry Bomb had both the motive and opportunity to murder Miss Peacock and Mr. Greenspan. The motive is that Cherry had a clear motivation to kill both parties. Miss Peacock was a friend of hers who had double-crossed her. Miss Peacock seduced Mr. Greenspan and convinced him to tell Warren Peace he would cut funding to The Loneliest Butterfly unless Warren replaced Cherry Bomb with Miss Peacock. She killed Miss Peacock to get her role back, and then she killed Mr. Greenspan to make sure that the movie was still funded. With both of them out of the way, Cherry would reclaim the role that was wrongfully stolen from her. As for opportunity, there were 2 things to note in the photographs. First, if you look on the desk, there is a wine glass with lipstick on it. The lipstick is facing out, away from Miss Peacock. Miss Peacock is not wearing lipstick in the photo. Second, Miss Peacock was shot while sitting. This means she was drinking wine in a relaxed position with a friend who shot her from across the desk. Mr. Greenspan paid Jarvis to point out Warren's drink. Jarvis only mentioned this to 2 different people, Professor Purple and Cherry Bomb. While Professor Purple had a reason to murder Miss Peacock, he had no reason to kill Mr. Greenspan. Cherry Bomb, on the other hand, she knew which glass would be poisoned, so it was a simple task for her to make sure Mr. Greenspan got his poison back. Thanks for listening to this audio summary of Best Laid Plans. And I hope it has helped you get all the details, motivations, and characters firmly in mind for this classic old Hollywood show. This has been Michael with the Murder Mystery Company. Knock 'em dead, detectives.